Welcome to the Car Sim and Race Driver Show, presented by Hugh Hattrick. Here at Bathurst in the Forest, my very special guest, Basic Ollie, Rascal, Rabbit, Josh Martin. It's great to have you back on the show. Drive fast and try not to crash. Hello and welcome to the Car Sim and Race Driver Show with me, Hugh Hattrick, and my very special guest who has jumped on at the last minute as an absolute hero to stand in for poor old Gaz Sims. It is Mikolaj, or his PSN name is Miumiu79. How are you doing, Mikolaj?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good.
That's great. Now, just for everyone who's watching, you probably would be expecting Gaz tonight, but unfortunately, poor thing, he had to go into hospital because he has quite a difficult medical situation there. And he told me today, unfortunately, that he had to go into hospital overnight. So our thoughts and prayers are with Gaz. And we hope to have him back on as soon as we can. He should be out in the next wee while. So we'll keep you up to date. So we do apologise that Gaz isn't available tonight, but we've got Mikolaj, who has very kindly stood in for an interview. Now, you, I believe, are an admin for Basic Ollie's channel.
Yes, that is true.
So how did all that start then? How did you become a fan of Ollie and along with your YouTube channel? How did you manage to become an admin for Ollie, first of all?
Well, firstly, I had a race with him at Monza about 9 months ago. And it was a great race. And then I saw at the end of the race that he had a YouTube channel. So I searched it up and turned out he made Gran Turismo videos. So I subscribed, and then obviously we know what happened there.
Yeah. I mean, his channel has grown massively over the last wee while, especially when he was racing Super GT. And of course, Super GT called him out and recommended his channel. And of course, it's gone up from, because I interviewed him when he had about 2,500 subs, and now he's up to over 15,000, which is fantastic and well deserved. He's done. Is it up to 16,000 now? My goodness, yeah, it's growing really, really well. So, of course, you have started your own YouTube channel. So what was the thing that led you to do that?
I don't know, I just felt like making videos, really. The problem was, though, was that after a while, I just kind of lost motivation. So I'm really at a point I shouldn't be, really, because if I'm honest, I could be a lot bigger at this stage, but obviously it's not quite happened yet.
Yeah, well, I think it's like anything, isn't it? Growing a YouTube channel takes its time.
The first stage is very difficult. Getting to 100 subscribers is by far the hardest bit, for sure.
Yeah, certainly. It's quite interesting. I mean, we decided to restart our kind of channel back in August. So we had areas, kind of Rory Alexander. You've probably seen him on YouTube. Yeah. And he very kindly came on. And we've had a few other very special guests over the years. But I thought, let's try and kind of make try and stand out with our channel. And I think that's sometimes what you have to try and do. And so Rory came on, and with his community, and that really helped us to galvanize and get a lot more subscribers. And it certainly gave us a lot of motivation. And here we are with over 277 subscribers at this time, which is absolutely amazing. So as you say, it just takes a bit of time, and you'll see things grow. Now, I've been looking at your channel earlier on today, and I see that you do lap guides. How do you manage to do that? What was the motivation and things to lead you to do a lap guide?
That was only one video, I think, because I felt as though I set a decent-ish lap time. But when Willow Springs Group 3 returns, I'll probably try to get a decent lap and then upload it onto YouTube for people to try and get a decent lap as well. Yeah.
And have you found that your lap times are pretty competitive? How do you manage to get the really fast times when you do a lap on Gran Turismo?
Just kind of keep going at it. The more you play, the more that you obviously improve. But, you can definitely pick up tips along the way. That's what kind of helped me as well. Just by watching other people, I picked up what lines they were taking, where they were braking, what brake bias they were using, what car, etc., etc. So that really helped me kind of get to A+.
That's fantastic. A+ age 14. My goodness me, I'm jealous already. It's taken me years to try and get to B and S, and I only just managed to get into A a little while ago. But no, that's really, really good. Now, we've had a question from Gaz, who is must be watching this from his hospital bed, and he says, who is your favorite admin?
Favorite admin? I mean, it's got to be Gaz, hasn't it? I mean, come on, has to be Gaz.
Now, there's another question. Another question is, what actually does a moderator do or an admin do on a channel?
Just kind of keep everything flowing smoothly in a live stream, because if there's like 506 people watching, chances are there's going to be some idiot in the chat. So you've got to make sure that there are no idiots trying to ruin it. So there aren't many idiots, thankfully, on Ollie's channel compared to some others. I'm sure you'll probably know whose channel has a bit of a problem with haters, but to be honest, it's not that difficult. I mean, most of the time I watch the stream just for a laugh, and I get a laugh, so I'm happy.
Yeah. I suppose it's. I mean, I haven't, to be fair, when I've been watching live streams. I know there seemed to be a point a wee while ago when there was all the spam and people would come on with messages that weren't appropriate. But either they had swear words or whatever in them, but they're very quickly deleted. So I take it that's one of your roles. If somebody puts on a dodgy comment, you can remove it straight away, and things like that.
Yeah, that's what we kind of have to do, really. Just make sure that there's no kind of bad words in the chat and something that could offend someone, for example. And we've got to make sure that everything is in English as well. Otherwise, it can get a bit confusing, because someone could be saying stuff in another language that we don't understand.
Yeah. How do you deal with that then? Is there a kind of translation that you can put in? There's no ways to translate it, I suppose, is there?
I mean, translation. The problem with translating it, though, is that it takes about. It does take a little while, and by the time that a moderator's translated it, I could have said something else, and then it's just going to be a continuous loop. So just got to make sure everything's in English so we can understand it all. Yeah.
So what's your sim rig setup then, or do you play on the gaming pad, or do you have special equipment?
I play on this. I play on the.
Ah, fantastic! Yeah. That's really good, because to get the good times on a controller, that is hard. That is really hard.
Yeah, it is tricky, especially with tire wear and rear-wheel drive cars. It's very tricky to manage, but I think I've done relatively well.
Yeah. No, I mean, to get to A+, you must have done extremely well. Because I remember that's one of the main reasons why I got a sim rig, is because I was so frustrated using the pad. I thought I just can't seem to get anywhere near the quick guys. And so my first thought was get a better sim rig. Let's use what they're using or something similar. And that's kind of how it all goes from there. But no, if you're doing it on a pad, that would be fantastic. You'll certainly have to save up the pennies and do all the paper rounds that you can do, or whatever it might be, so you can save up and get a sim rig. Because if you're that fast on a pad, you'll be, I'm sure, super fast on a sim rig as well. Now, we've got a question from one of the people in the comments from Nailinski, and he says, "What is your favorite track and car combination?"
Oh, that's easy. Willow Springs Group 3. If you're in Ollie's Discord, you know.
So and how do you?
Because it's such an old school track, and in Group 3, because obviously it's got a bit more. It's obviously faster than Group 4. It just feels more satisfying, really, to get a lap.
Mm-hmm. And what is it about Willow Springs? Because it's a very interesting circuit, isn't it? It's quite different to anything else. With all those, it's very easy if you get caught in the dust and you go out for miles and miles, isn't it? Do you find that a particular challenge? Is that what kind of motivates you to race around there?
It's a challenge, yeah, but when I'm racing there, I know that I can't go 100%. I have to go 95 or 90%, because I know if I push the limits too much, then I'll be gone for weeks, and then it's going to be impossible to get back on the track. And that's a
Yeah.
lot of people. That's what a lot of people make a mistake on. They try and push too much at Willow, but because it's such an old school track, there's literally no tarmac runoff. So you've got to be so careful
Aye.
to make sure you don't go off the track.
What's your key to the last corner? Because I always find that really tricky. That last corner, isn't it? Because you're kind of on that right hand bend, and then it kind of tightens a little bit. And if you brake too hard, you can really unsettle the car. And if you change down, you can unsettle the car. What would you recommend?
Just stick to the inside. Really, it's the fastest line. But I used to go to the outside, but then I realised that all the top guys were just sticking to the inside and getting a much better run through the last corner. And when it was an FIA race about 7 months ago, I was definitely up there with some of the quickest guys. I beat, I believe, PR1 Fire in the time trial.
Wow.
There was still a 10th in it because on my best lap I completely messed up the final corner, and I knew that I could go quicker, but eventually in the race I got screwed over because I started on pole, and then for some reason I decided to start on the medium, so I had to fight my way through. And there was a dirty driver by the name of Vicky who was just pushing everyone off the track. And unfortunately, he ruined my race. That could have been my only manufacturer series win, which is a shame.
It is tough, isn't it?
Because my is so high now, it's going to be very tricky to win, especially against split 3 drivers. They're very fast, so it's going to be tricky.
Yeah, and we've got a good question from, I'll try and pronounce this correctly, Aiko Hendricks, I think that is the name.
Mm-hmm.
Who is your biggest inspiration for your channel?
Biggest inspiration? I mean, pretty much every single GT Sport YouTuber's inspiration is Super GT. I mean, let's be honest. He's the biggest channel. He's got almost 500,000 subscribers, and he's the only person who makes GT videos that can go anywhere near 100,000 views on a regular basis. So I guess he has to be my inspiration, really. But I also got a bit of inspiration from Ollie as well, because he kind of inspired me to get back into uploading. So that was good as well.
Yeah, I mean, how do you find, obviously, you're at school, and I know at the moment the schools are closed, but last year they weren't up until a point. How have you found kind of doing all your schoolwork and then being able to game as well? Do you find it's giving you a bit of extra street cred when you talk to your mates and say, look, I'm on the top 10 in the time trial on GT Sport, or you've beaten all these guys? It must surely give you a bit of street cred saying things like that.
It doesn't really. I mean, the schoolwork is easy to manage because it's obviously over kind of between 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock, and then I've got the rest of the evening or afternoon, whatever, to play Gran Turismo. But I haven't been playing this week. I just haven't touched the game. The daily races have a big good, and with no FIA to practice for, it's just no point, really.
Yeah.
I need to get back into PC as well. I haven't played it for well over a week, so I need to get back into it.
Yeah. Oh, that's the thing. Now we've got a question from, it is 110 PC11. I have no idea who that is, but there's a great question that you've got. It says, how long do you spend practicing to be as competitive as you are?
How long do I spend practicing? Depends what he means. If it's for FIA, it's about 5 minutes, 10 minutes before a race. I don't do a practice lobby. There's no point, because I could just watch maybe Key 25 stream and know what the strategy is within 30 seconds. So I don't see the point. But obviously, I probably should, now that I'm in a higher lobby, because next season I'm planning to go with Jaguar or Honda, really, or maybe McLaren as well. So I'm only familiar with the Honda, so I need to do a bit more practice to try and get to grips with the car for the track and stuff. So I probably should do more practice, but at the moment, not much.
Yeah. Now that's amazing that you can do those kind of times, and it's hardly any hassle. It's done so quickly, which is very, very good. Now we've got a question from Mike Rogers Racing. What does Miumiu want to do when he leaves school? So there you are. What would be your ideal?
Oh, what does Miumiu want to do when he leaves school? Probably be a car designer, but that's obviously going to be very tricky because you've got to get all these degrees and stuff. But I mean, that's obviously my ultimate dream, but I'm going to try and have to work towards it, really. And for now, anyway, YouTube is just a side thing, really.
I was going to say we have a very special guest in the chat tonight. We've got Ollie. Ollie has turned up. So do you have any questions for Ollie as well? I'll see if he says anything in the chat too. What would be a question that you could have for Ollie?
Is it hard being the most basic YouTuber on GT Sport? Is it hard?
We'll look out for that. Hopefully, Ollie will answer us in a few seconds there. Which is the thing. But yeah, no. Here we go. And I've been told that yes, Ollie is here, and now he's faster than you. I did a very funny video only because on Monday night I was doing the Group 4 at Maggiore, and somebody had told me when we got into the lobby that I saw Ollie's name, and he was starting off 10th, and I was starting off 5th. And I thought, oh my goodness me, this is going to be embarrassing. He's going to come past me. And then somebody said, no, he's in the Alpha 4C. And I thought, well, I might have a chance. And sure enough, I managed to keep ahead of him, and I've ended up finishing 3rd. So on that video, I had to put, I beat Basic Ollie. It was my only chance I'd ever get to beat him. So that was the thing. I think he gave me a head start. But no, he's very, very fast, just like yourself. And he's got a great channel there.
He's probably quicker than myself, actually. Because most of the time I have to spend almost all week just to try and beat his times that he set on Monday. So he is definitely very quick.
Yeah. Now, here's a question from Jonathan Sutherland, one of my co-hosts there. Do you like go-karting? And is it something that you do every so often, or is it something you do quite a lot?
I haven't been go-karting, actually, for quite a long time. It's something I should really get into, but at the moment, with everything going on, it's quite hard to go go-karting. So, and plus, it's also, there's not really many tracks near me that do events. So it's a bit of a hassle driving 3 hours to track and then driving back. So that's the whole day basically gone. Whereas a lot of people, it's just like a 5-minute drive to the track. So
yeah,
it's quite difficult.
Where are you based about? Where would be your nearest track?
To be honest, the nearest nearest track that hosts like events and stuff like karting championships is probably like Wilton Mill, and even then that's 125 miles away. So it's quite a distance.
Yeah. So what part of the country are you in?
Lancashire, near Blackpool.
All right. Yeah. Oh yeah. So you've got places like that. And I'm just trying to think. Is it Oulton Park? That's down near That's the other side of Manchester, isn't it? And places like that. That's not too far away. But as you say, it's great that you're getting into the sim racing and that you've got this good link with Ollie. He was just saying there in the comments that he enjoys seeing people making videos about trying to beat him. So at least we haven't annoyed him too much so far.
I'm being in the Z4.
That's the thing. You need to keep telling him that, and I'm sure he'll that will wind him up.
Hey, on YouTube. Check it out.
That's the thing, isn't it? Well, no, it's great the fact that you can play these lobbies as many of us do, and we get a chance to play each other and have a laugh. And if we win, we win. You know, it's really good for practice and to gain the skills, isn't it? And that kind of thing. Now, you said a little bit earlier you were keen into going into car design, which is brilliant because I mean it's a great field to go into. And if you design a car eventually, you know you've got your name on it, and you can say over to your, you know, when you're older, I designed this great car. Is there a particular type of car you would like to design?
Sports cars or race cars, really.
Yeah, or race cars. Aye, that's the thing. And is there a particular make that you would quite like? If there was a manufacturer watching tonight saying we're looking for designers, who would you like to work for? Who would be your favourite?
Probably McLaren, actually. And I know it sounds stupid, but McLaren is probably the most technologically advanced car manufacturer, because their cars are so complex, and it'd be great to work alongside like people who understand these technologies.
Yeah, yeah. That now Ollie has replied saying that maybe you could work for Minardi, which was the old Formula One team that went bust a number of years ago and was bought over. But no, I'm sure it was great that you've got a good. If you want to do design, that's fantastic. And I'm not sure what kind of you'll need. Probably is it graphic design at school that you'll need to do, isn't it, or things like that to kind of get into all of that, or the kind of, or was it technical drawing, things like that?
Yeah.
You might need some kind of that kind of form of being able to go in. But so is that something you're quite good at? Do you have a kind of natural talent as well for drawing and for that kind of car design? Have you done any practice shots before?
I've done a couple of designs, but I haven't really gone into kind of the actual inside. I've only done like the exterior. But I think I've done some okay designs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing too special.
Yeah. No, I mean that's great, because that's what many of us have had as kind of boyhood dreams to go out there and design a car. And I was terrible at drawing, so my cars didn't even look like cars. But no, the fact you've got that motivation to go out there and draw some great sports cars is a fantastic thing, and you need to take hold of that and push it as far as you can. And I'm sure you'll go well. But in terms of your sim career, where would you like that to go? What would be your kind of ideal, and how would you like to see it progress?
My ultimate aim really is to try and get to a world tour, but it's going to be super, super, super difficult, because I've got to put in the practice, and my focus really is to try and get in a world tour for GT7, because GT7 is when I'm going to properly start, trying to compete at the top.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
we've got super. Yeah. Well, we've had a few guys who have been on the world tours. We've got Super GT, who's on next week. We've had Tidgeny as well, who's been doing world tours for quite a while now. So he's been on before. So it's probably worth having a little look at some of our interviews there, because you can probably find some of the tips from these guys as to how to get onto them and how they manage to do so well. But so what do you think you're going to need to do to get onto those grand tours? Because it's a big challenge, isn't it? And obviously you've got to get the time trial right. You've got to get up there, get the results. Is there a particular you've got to get into the top splits, isn't it? Is that what you're aiming for as well?
Yeah, top split is obviously the ultimate goal, because you can't get to a world tour without being in the top split with the most points, because there's a massive difference between second split and top split. With second split, you're looking at 320, maybe 325 points for first, but then in top split, you're looking at well over 350 points, upwards of 400 sometimes. So you've got to make sure that you put in those performances.
And what would you say to, obviously, a lot of our community is much, much older, to be polite, than your good self. What would you say are the tips that you could give us as to improve our racing and our ability to do well in sim racing? What would be your top say 3 tips for going faster when we're doing sim racing?
The first one has to be just to find your limits, because you're not going to get anywhere if you don't make mistakes. It's just a fact, really. And also try and see what the top guys are doing, because you could definitely pick up a trick or two by just looking at the times. And then obviously because I recall on Monday I used a top 10 time, and immediately I got my time down from a 2:02.5 to a 2:02 dead in about 3 laps. So
wow.
If you can use something to work towards, then it should really help you improve your lap time. So if you set yourself a goal, like, okay, I want to get under a 2:04, for example, then just kind of set yourself that goal just keep going, because eventually you'll get it. If you nail the lap, or you don't make any mistakes, you will get that lap time eventually.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what would you say has been, like, say, the biggest trick or the biggest kind of surprise that you found in trying to go faster? So maybe by watching one of the videos of someone who's in the top 10, it's something that maybe surprised you as to how much of an influence it was to help you go faster around a particular track.
It's probably the gearing, actually, because I noticed that before I looked at the time I used, I was going in first gear at the first corner, and obviously you'll get a lot of wheel spin. But then I watched the time, and he was taking the first corner in third gear, and then I picked that up, and I was gaining probably a 10th in the first sector. Really helped me.
That's pretty good going, actually, isn't it? Now, here's a completely different question from Sean. Sean claimed that he's 12 years old, but I don't think that's the case. I wouldn't believe that.
No.
But Sean asks, is there any racing heritage in your family, or is it something you've just come across and found a love for?
My dad's into racing, but there isn't like any motorsport kind of heritage or whatever. Just my dad, really, yeah.
Just racing away. Now that's really, really good. And so, other than GT Sport, do you have other games that you like to play?
Obviously, I need to get into Assetto Corsa more, because I haven't played it enough, really. I need to try and improve, because I know that I could probably go a lot faster if I just play a little bit every single day or every other day or whatever. But I used to play the F1 games, but after 2019 with the physics, I just didn't like them, so that kind of put me off most of the F1 games. Really.
Yeah. They are a bit strange. I used to enjoy playing the earlier ones, like from about 2010, so when you had the V8s and the V10s. They're just, the sound was so much better. I find the sound on the current ones, it's okay, but it's nowhere near as involving as the older cars, aren't they? And that's the thing. That now Ollie has asked here, does your hair create drag and then make you slower in a straight move? That's what he's saying.
No, it doesn't create drag, actually. But what does create drag is the fact that I have to carry so much pressure, because if you're right behind me, I know that if you're live streaming or you're recording or whatever, then if I spin, then it's on YouTube forever, and then that's what probably loses me a good 3 or 4 tenths on the straight, and then probably another second in the corners.
Now we've got a completely different question from Nelinsky. Now he's saying, pasties or pies? A food-related question. What do you prefer?
Oh, pies for sure, pies. Nothing can beat a good old apple pie from the co-op. Nothing.
That's it. So we do great Scotch pies where I am in the Scottish borders. Nothing like a Scotch pie. Especially if you get lamb in it. Lamb Scotch pies are incredible. But that's the thing. Now, Political Mind has asked, what would be the car that you would like to drive? Or it's kind of like your dream car. And Jonathan jokingly says, my dream car at 14 was a Rover 214. I'm sure you've got bigger expectations than that.
NSX Type R. It's just such an icon of Japanese sports cars. So that's what I would like to have.
The NSX, yeah, and what a great car. Especially, it's heritage. It was tested by the late great Ayrton Senna, and you can't really get much better than that. If ever you want to watch a great video, it's on YouTube, and it's if you go into Senna drives the NSX at Suzuka, and you'll just see he gets into the car, and he's got one camera on his self driving normally, and then he's also got a foot cam, and he's wearing these lovely slip-on shoes with the white socks as we used to wear back in the late 80s and 90s. But you see him do the heel and toe and racing around Suzuka like nothing else, and it's just fantastic. But the NSX, and especially the new one now, is quite a machine. Is there a particular reason why you would choose that car?
It's just because I like the NSX, really. But because it is quite expensive, if I won't be able to afford it, I'll just get an EK Type R, really.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. The last one that you said. An E-Type.
EK Type R.
Right. Oh, that sounds like quite a machine. That now we've got a question here from Gaz. Is Mu way too young to have played the original Gran Turismo? What was the first GT game that you played?
GT5 was the first one I played, and then I played GT6, and then obviously playing GT Sport now. But GT6 was the first Gran Turismo game that I really got into. I would spend hours trying to get gold at Monza in the Lotus for the Ayrton Senna DLC. So.
Oh yeah. And that was a hard one to try and achieve. That
the first chicane at that track was very weird because it's like a double chicane.
I know it is. Now we've got a question from Mohammed GTS, and he's saying a question for both you and Mu. What got you into content creating?
What got me into content creating was probably because I got into GT Sport about towards the end of last year, and at the time I made my first video, I was kind of getting into the point where I knew I could probably get to the higher levels.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought, why not make a video out of it? And then I did a video at Race 8, which was at Tokyo in the Toyota 86, and it wasn't great. It could have been far better, but obviously your first video isn't going to be absolutely spectacular, is it? So it's going to be tricky, but over time I improved, and I improved on everything, really. I tried to make the videos as good as possible, and really I think the only thing holding me back really is my hardware, because I can't upload in anything above 720p, unfortunately.
Right. Yep. No, that's the thing. Well, I remember one of my first live streams, it had the picture of my steering wheel, but I wasn't in it because I forgot I'd actually started it. I was so busy trying to put it out and get it sorted on my computer that I realized that for about 5 minutes, nothing was happening. And there were people watching and sending messages. And then I realized I wasn't even on the live stream that I had put on. So, but amazingly, about 40 people watched it. And I thought that shows some commitment from the community to watch a live stream when I'm not even there, an empty seat. But yeah, no, it's quite funny, isn't it? Sometimes the mistakes you can make on the first few, but then you kind of quickly improve them and try and get on. So what are kind of your favorite videos to make?
Probably the FIA videos, because the FIA races are the most enjoyable, I think, because all the good drivers come out, so there's obviously a lot of clean racing most of the time. About 95% of the races I do make their way onto YouTube. But obviously, the only reason I don't upload FIA videos is either because I don't think it would be a good video, or because I did very badly in it. So
yeah, that's something I have a problem with that too. If I don't do well enough in a race, sometimes I'll put them on if there's loads of penalties and they're kind of full of action. But if I do really badly, I don't think people are going to want to watch this. They want to see people kind of do a bit better. You would assume, but sometimes it can be quite funny if it all goes horribly wrong. And that kind of thing. Now we did have Thea in the chat as well. Thea, the Amazon. I don't know if are you aware of Thea? Have you ever watched her channel? She's one of the top female racers out there in the UK, and she does like the all-female racing league and things like that. But she's very fast, and she races with some of the top drivers. So that would be a great channel to check out for you, because I'm sure she would welcome you along, especially if you're going to do more Assetto Corsa competition in the future. They have lots of community races there, which I'm sure you could be very competitive in, and I'm sure she'd be more than happy for that to do. But other than Super GT and people like that, other content creators that you would like to meet, and what would you ask them if you had a chance to meet them?
What I would ask them, I don't know, because I wouldn't really ask them anything, because you know, there isn't really much to ask, really, because, to be honest, the main advice really is to just try and improve your videos as much as possible, and then try and keep consistent, really. There isn't really much to ask, I suppose.
That's it. Sometimes when you meet the people you really want to meet, you suddenly find your questions disappear, and you think, "Oh, I wanted to say something," and it goes from your mind. Or that something happens to me. That's why I've got to make sure I've got notes. That's the thing, so I know what I'm going to say. Now, here is a crazy question from Delinsky, and he said, "This is the question of the night for you, so you better consider this very, very carefully. Would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?"
Probably one horse-sized duck, simply because if you've got 100 duck-sized horses, there's 100 of them, so it's obviously going to be a lot more tricky. But if there's just one, then it's going to be a lot easier. Don't get me wrong. I mean, fighting a horse-sized duck is obviously going to be very tricky, but it's going to be easier than fighting 100 duck-sized horses, I think.
I think that's a very good answer. When I saw that question, I had to read it twice and think, is that really what he's saying? You know, but a great question with a great answer. Now, we've got some more questions for you. Give me 2 wee seconds here. I will go back up. We've had so many comments. It's making sure that we get the right one here. Now, oh yes, have you heard of Jack Balding? Because he's also a subscriber here, and he's I think he's 12, and he does all the go-karting and GT Sport, and is also very competitive.
Ollie's Discord, I think he's quite active on there. He's very quick. He's probably faster than myself. He's more consistent. He gets the bigger points results. It's incredible what you can do, because obviously I think he's on a pad as well, so there's no excuse for me really to be slower than him, but I am.
Well, I suppose just a bit more practice, and that'll be it. And I'm sure you'll be getting up there and giving him a good run for his money. Now, for some of us older in the community who know what's been happening with poor old Key 25, I do like Eiko Hendricks' comment there. I would love to meet the Key 25 and ask if he forgot to pay his electricity bills. Yeah, I'm quite sure from his recent comments that might be quite appropriate. I'm sure he would love to answer that one for you, Eiko. I wouldn't stand too close to him if you do. But yeah, that is definitely a very good question. Now, here we go. I've been asked, do I ever get cross? Mike Rogers thinks I never get cross. I'm sure you've seen some of my live streams when I've been wiped out or got a penalty with something I haven't done. What's been the most annoying thing for you, Mikolo, in terms of the penalty that you've received? How do you find the current system? Are you doing well with it, or are you a victim of it?
I don't get many penalties, actually, to my surprise. I've not been a victim of the penalty system. I know that it is pretty bad, and I know that it definitely needs work, but myself, I haven't really been a victim of it too much.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it's one of these things that we do. You see them all the time on the videos. Is that somebody's, they get wiped out or pushed aside, and then the person gets nothing, and then they go up to the person and they're trying to overtake him, and they get one tiny little touch, and then they get like a 2-second penalty or more, and it can be quite. That's the thing. Now, I'm looking for the questions here. Let's see. Oh yes. Now, Philip Horton has asked, where did your gamer tag come from? And he said, I've only tried to ask that 5 times. I didn't see that one earlier.
Where my gamer tag come from? To be honest, I couldn't think of anything. So I knew that Miumiu was a fashion designer, or like a fashion brand, and then at the time 79 was my race number. But obviously, it's changed now to 25. But I'll never change it. I'll never change it. Never.
Yeah. No, it's a good name. It's a very good name. And I think that's what I quite like about your PSN names. You can have lots of fun with them. I've got my Crichton Starbug because I was a Red Dwarf fan. You see, so that's how it all started. And then my recent one is Fat Man in a Cheap Sim, because I'm slightly overweight and I have a cheap sim. So that's how it can all make sense. But it's quite a funny one, and I hope it kind of works. Now here we are from Augustin Mellors. Is Miumiu joining Monaco or staying at NVW?
I haven't got any offers from Monaco as of yet, so for the time being, I'll be staying with NVW. So you all have a teammate that's slightly competent, don't worry. But if I do get an offer, I would have to consider a lot of things, really, because I only joined the team about 3 weeks ago. And to jump ship this early is a bit of a... I don't think it'll be right, really. So
that's the thing. And here's a good question from Echo Hendricks. How did you feel when you beat Super GT for the first time at Suzuka?
The best way to describe it was euphoric, because I overtook him around the outside at the final chicane, which is very hard to do. Yes, he had Ollie on his inside, but come on, it's the last lap. You know, you're jostling for what was 11th place, so it was a good race. I was keeping Ollie posted for the whole thing. I wouldn't let him get away. But in the little MX-5s, it's quite difficult to stay on the back of someone, because if you get a snap of oversteer, that's 3/10 gone. So it was good, because, to be fair, circumstances did help me, because he got a penalty twice. But to be fair, I started last and he didn't, and I got held up quite a lot at the first 2 laps. But I felt happy, and I made a video out of it, so yeah, I'll take it.
Oh, that's right. I think I remember seeing that, because I've watched a lot of Super GT videos, and I'm sure I can remember mentioning your name, that you got past him literally at the last corner. So yeah, no, that was the thing. So if he's mentioned you as well, you'll need to remind him of that when he's on the show next week. You'll need to come on into the chat and remind him, we'll make sure that he calls out your channel and see what we can do. He's a great guy, and it's fantastic that you meet him. The only time I ever got into a lobby with Super GT was at Brands Hatch, and it was a private lobby that he was doing on his stream. And the thing was, it was the one time I thought, great, I'm going to have a chance to race against him. And he crashed into the back of me going around the first hairpin. He just punted me off in the qualifying, and then I got dumped out of the lobby. It went awry, and of course we were all taken out of the lobby, and we had to restart it all. So I never got a chance to actually race him. I only got a chance to be punted off by him. But no, he's a good chap, and I'm looking forward to him coming on the show next week. But now here we go. Now let's get another question by, let's see, Political Mind. So it's saying, my interviews are very enjoyable, which is very nice, thank you. How many times have you beaten Super GT?
No, only one time. But I do recall about 9 months ago, I think it was at Tokyo in race C in Group 4, I actually out-qualified him, and I was in front of him for a good 3 laps. And then I went for an absolute send at one of the corners. I think it was a right-hander. And then he actually mentioned me. He said that guy went from 4th to 1st. And then all of that happened. And eventually I got spun around, and then I finished like 15th because I got pushed into the wall by Will Murdoch. So that wasn't very fun.
Aye, no, that's the thing. But it's great that you can remember how many times you've beaten them, though, which for most of us is certainly not the case. But now here's a question from Sean. Do you prefer doing live streams or making and editing videos?
It depends really what I'm doing in a live stream. If I'm doing open lobbies, then of course I'll prefer to do live streams. But if it's like an FIA race or whatever, then of course I'll prefer making the videos.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Now we've got a good question here. How much are moderators paid? And if so, my co-hosts who are assuming that they are moderators are going to get a pay rise. Has Ollie paid you anything for being a moderator yet?
No, he hasn't paid me anything, not a penny, which is a bit of a shame. But I mean, I've just got to kind of accept it, haven't I?
Well, now is your chance. Now is your chance to say, I demand a pay rise from 0 to something above 0. That I'm sure you'll give it. Look at all the witnesses we have in chat. Who'll definitely say you're worth a punt. Worth to make sure you can get something, get an increase. That now we've also got a question here. Here we are. Now let's see. Oh, I've been asked, are we going to do some GT Sport after the interview? We're actually going to do some, I said, of course, a competition after the interview. I'm going to go and do some multiplayer a bit later on. Is that something you do? I know you said you do a little bit of ACC. Do you tend to do the career or do you do the kind of multiplayer? What's your favorite?
I do the multiplayer, really. And when I first got the game, I did, I think, one race against the AI and I won. So that was interesting, but I definitely do prefer online single player.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Now, going back to GT3, we've got a question here, which I think might be designed to wind you up a bit. It's by Augustin Millers. Is Willow Springs in Group 3 the worst combination in the game?
Well, you're not only wrong, but you're so terribly wrong that you might have to have your limbs stretched, because Willow Springs is the best combination in the game, no doubt.
Well, seemingly my two co-hosts have now said that they are unionizing and they're demanding a pay rise, 100% pay rise to 2 jelly beans. And I was saying, yeah, that's if you're lucky. You've got to work a bit harder, you two. I want you to see proper moderation from now on. Now that's the thing. Now I'll get some more questions here coming in for you. Now Nelinsky has asked for your favorite car, or for a choice of cars here, between the Ford GT40 Mark 1, 2, or 3, or a Ford GT 05 or 17 version. Good question.
What, GT40 Mark 1, really?
Yeah, the original's worth millions.
Such an iconic car. Because obviously it's got that motorsport pedigree.
And the thing is, none of us would be able to fit in it. But you guys being small and young, you could fit in that car, no problem. Because that was the thing; it was very short, wasn't it? And was it one of the drivers who was used it for racing the car? They had to make a slightly higher version of it just so you could actually fit in the car, because it's so low that it really literally is on the ground. But now Philip Horton has asked, whatever happened to wanting a flake? And that, but that would be an easier and a slightly cheaper question to ask. And Serality has asked, what color would you have your Ford GT40?
Well, it's obviously got to be in red, surely.
Yeah, no, I think that's
slightly the kind of lighter red, or almost kind of orangey color. That would look pretty nice on the Ford GT. Actually, I'm wrong. It's got to be the dark blue.
Yeah, no, it's quite. I have to say, I do like the new one, the one that they brought out a few years ago. I do like that. I think that looks a fantastic car, and I think it was better to the kind of early one that they made, the kind of early kind of version they did back in 2005. I think that one wasn't quite as good as the one that they redid. So keep your questions coming for Miumiu79. And they are. Oh, how do you find? In fact, Sean said this chat is being like Discord on a daily basis, because obviously you use all these different systems and social platforms. Are you a big fan of Discord?
Yeah, it's good to interact with everyone outside of the live stream. It's very good.
And it keeps you up to date with everything that's going on, isn't it? But no, that's the thing. Now, we've got a very good question from Mohammed GTS saying, what is a bucket list for GT7 that you would like to see in the game?
To be honest, I want a better penalty system. I want more tracks. I want the balance of performance, especially in the Group 4 class, to be better. And I also want to see kind of more damage models, because if you absolutely wreck someone at turn 3 in Austria, for example, you're not going to get away with anything.
Yeah.
So it doesn't quite work.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. And here's a good question from Nilinski. Who is the biggest wind-up merchant you've ever come across? Whether it be on YouTube or Discord, who winds you up the most?
I don't know, really. I don't really have an answer to that question.
That's all right. You seem a very laid-back kind of person. It doesn't look like much, not like in terms of it take an awful lot to wind you up. You seem quite focused there, which is very good. Yeah, here's a good question from Augustin Mellers. Who is worse, Miumiu79 or Viggy?
Viggy for sure. I mean, Momo's is bad, but Viggy is just on another level. I mean, what he's done is questionable, and to say the least. But when you actually look at what he does, it's just mind-boggling how he gets, especially because of fast driver. I mean, he wouldn't be A+ for no reason. He's got to have some element of speed, and the fact that he just drives and races so dirty just kind of annoys me, because he could be very quick driver. He could be up there in the highest splits, but because of his own actions, he isn't.
Oh, I think it's buffering out a little bit. I think it's thinking just away there. Can you hear me there?
Yeah.
It's just gone a wee bit slow. It's just freezing up slightly. But
yeah, I'm so sorry, but my phone is literally out to die.
All right. Not to worry. Well, look, we have...
my phone is literally on...
Is it about to die, is it? Well, not to worry. We've been going for 52 minutes, which has been absolutely brilliant. And you've been a fantastic guest. I know that we've been asking you lots and lots of questions.
Thank you.
And you've done incredibly well, I have to say, for such a young chap to be able to answer question after question is brilliant. Have you got any wee messages you would like to give the community that you know and your friends here in the sim racing community? As anything you would like to say to them?
I can guarantee you that that in 2 months' time I will be in top split and I will be destroying Ollie in every single race that I will. That's my guarantee. That's
great. Good fighting talk. That'll get them all wound up, I'm sure. But no, it's been fantastic to have you on the show. Thank you very much for stepping in at the last minute for Gaz. It's very, very kind of you to do that. And you're welcome on the show at any time. I wish you all the best for a great year in racing and getting up into top split and getting on to the world tours. I'm sure you'll get there very soon. But we have a couple of mottos on the show. And the thing is, they're mottos that never work in motor racing. But because we think we're a bunch of comics, we think we can get away with it. And the first one is drive fast and try not to crash, which is a take on Schumacher's year review when he was interviewed racing a number of years back. And of course, our second one is win the race at the first corner, which is not a good idea. So, but it's been fantastic to have you on the show. And if you stay on the line for a few minutes once we finished, oh, he's gone. There we are. He's already gone. But I think his phone was about to die. But for everyone watching, thank you very, very much. It's fantastic. Thanks so much for the questions, the comments. It's been absolutely brilliant. We've got PX Cam Racing on Saturday night at 9 o'clock. So make sure you tune in for that because that would be absolutely brilliant to see you all there. He's got over 3,500 subscribers and he's coming all the way from North America to let us know exactly what it's like to be a very successful sim racer. And obviously we'll be back again on Monday for our gaming stream, and I'm hoping to do some Assetto Corsa competition in a few minutes' time. So take care, drive fast, and try not to crash, and you'll win the race at the first corner. Take care and bye just now.